Hello everyone, my name is Karl. The title of my presentation today is From Classroom to Community, Training the Next Generation of Extension Professionals. I'm an extension professor in the Animal Dairy Veterinary Science department here at USU, and I'm really glad to be here today and share something that has become central to how I think about teaching and extension. Today I want to talk about a model of teaching that we have accepted in the ADVS department at USU, and a course that we have developed that deliberately brings students into the extension programming and positions them as co-educators and leaders and not just as learners. The title of this conference, Beyond the Grade, couldn't be more fitting because that's what we're trying to do with this course. And what I hope to show you is a model of teaching that goes beyond the GPA or the transcript and into something much more meaningful: real-world application, identity development, civic engagement, and long-term resilience. There are three main takeaways that I want to leave you with today. Number one, strategies for embedding real-world application within academic coursework. Number two, the power of mentorship and near-peer teaching in developing confidence and capability. And number three, how we might rethink our definition of success, outcomes that extend beyond the transcript. Let's start with a question. How do you know if a student has really learned something? For a long time, our go-to answer has been, it's a grade. And yes, the grade-centric model does serve a function. It provides clear benchmarks. It creates common language for evaluation. It's neat, it's sortable, it's quantitative. But it's also incomplete and may even be misleading. Because while grades might tell us about performance under pressure, they often miss the deeper, messier process of actual learning. Research supports this. Grades can reinforce a fixed mindset, where students start believing that their intelligence is static and defined by a number or a letter grade. This isn't just theoretical. In our own classrooms, we've seen students avoid difficult projects or a new approach because they're afraid of ruining their GPA. That's the dark side of the grade-centric model. It narrows a definition of success. It discourages risk-taking. It pushes students towards surface learning, memorization instead of integration, and perhaps most concerning, it leaves little room for things like creativity, resilience, or collaboration, the very things we want them to take into their careers and their communities. As Carol Dweck's work on the growth mindset tells us, learning thrives when students believe their ability can grow through effort, not when they feel trapped by a single score. So how do we realign our teaching to encourage that mindset? That question is what prompted the creation of this course. We decided to build a course where grades were not the center, experience was. It was launched in direct response to students who expressed interest in extension careers in animal agriculture, but didn't have a clear pathway to explore it. So we created a bridge between the classroom learning and the community engagement. Here's the basic structure. Students were matched, each student was matched with a mentor, either a campus extension specialist or a county faculty member. They worked together to design a mini educational program around a real animal agricultural topic. Then, as a final public-facing capstone, students presented that program to over 160 eighth grade students in a station-based outreach event at the USU Bastion Agriculture Center in South Jordan. 15 different topics, ranging from wool production to DNA extraction, to beef cattle nutrition to equine-assisted services, all rooted in the emphases of our ADVS department, and all hands-on, student-led, and designed to communicate complex ideas to young learners. There were no midterms, no essays, and no final exams. Instead, There were real audiences, a real deadline, and a real need for students to step up and represent their field. This wasn't just about novelty. This course was designed in educational theory that supports deeper, longer-lasting learning. Let me name a few of them. Number one, experiential learning. Students learn best when they're actively engaged in doing, reflecting, and applying. It's one thing to read about nutrition. It's another thing to design a station that teaches 13-year-olds about rumen function in 10 minutes. Constructivism. Knowledge is constructed through interaction, not passively received. By asking students to teach, we're asking them to build their own understanding and make it communicable. Number three, social learning. Learning happens in a social context by working with mentors and peers. Students build confidence through modeling, feedback, and shared purpose. We also embed regular reflection and feedback loops, asking students to consider not just what they taught, but how they taught, how they felt, and how their perception of their own abilities changed. The question we often get is, about how do you know they learned anything? My answer to them is just watch them. We saw students who were quiet and hesitant at the start become engaging communicators by the end. We saw students who had never worked with youth learning to read a crowd, simplify content, and troubleshoot on the fly. We saw teamwork, time management, public speaking, adaptability, all things that are incredibly valuable but don't show up on a transcript. And instead of a grade on a page, students were evaluated through feedback from their mentor, feedback from youth participants, and a final self-assessment of what they accomplished and what they learned. One of the most powerful moments came during a debrief when a student said, "I didn't realize how hard it was to teach until I had to do it. But I didn't realize how much I knew until I had to explain it." That's the kind of insight you can't always measure with a multiple choice test. This course wasn't just about content. It was about confidence in ambiguity. In most of our classes, we control the environment. Students know what's coming, they study, they take a test, and we grade. But in this course, we introduced uncertainty. An unfamiliar audience, an unpredictable question, and live interaction. And what we found is that students didn't just survive it, they grew into it. They started to see themselves differently, not just as students fulfilling assignments, but as educators, communicators, and even as future extension professionals. The shift in identity is critical. In higher ed, we talk about career readiness, but what we really mean is identity readiness. Do students see themselves as capable agents in their field? In the students' own words, "I never felt more like a real professional." This course helped me see that extension is not just something that I can study, it's something that I can do. I appreciate how our mentor gave us the reins. It wasn't just a class project, it was ours. When students start speaking like that, we know that something meaningful has happened. So what does this mean for us as faculty? I believe this model, combining experiential learning, mentorship, and reflection, is broadly transferable. You don't need a livestock or a lab equipment to do this. The key ingredients are authentic tasks, real experiences, mentorship, and structured reflection. In history, it might be students designing and delivering community tours. In business, students can consult with local startups. In science, they can lead public demos at a museum or a fair. And we can rethink how we grade. Maybe it's not the product alone, it's the process, the professionalism, the engagement, the effort, and the adaptation. And that's what we tried to do here. Assess learning by its impact, not just by its precision. So here are some questions you might ask yourself. How are you rethinking grading your own courses? What barriers do you face in implementing real-world learning? And how can we support each other in shifting culture towards learning over letter grades? So let me end with this. In a world increasingly focused on test scores, algorithms, and transcripts, we need to remember what education is really about: preparing students to contribute, not just to pass, but to engage, to serve, and to create. This course reminded me and our students that the most important lessons don't always come or happen in a classroom. They don't always come with a letter grade. Sometimes they come in a dusty arena with a wiggly 8th grader asking a question you didn't expect. And in that moment, you realize this is what learning feels like. Thank you.